Hello and welcome to the very first episode of SPL Table Talk. This is a show all about the Singapore Premier League and the Singapore football as we talk about the news surrounding Singapore's only professional sports league. Here to do just that and preview the upcoming season, we have three very familiar faces and voices in the SPL. We have former player Rhysh Roshan Rai, former player coach Shashi Kumar, and former coach Khidhir Khamis. Guys, glad to have you with us. Let's dive straight into this. We're talking about the Community Shield, which happened a few days ago. Sailors beating Albrechts. What do you make of the result and the performance?
First of all, that was very good. Intro.
Thank you.
One shot, one kill, man. First time, man.
For now.
Wow, we used to do SPL Express last time. We used to
Let bygones be bygones.
Okay. So what was the question?
So this is what happens. Okay, so Albrechts, they lost to Sailors.
Yeah.
This is the first time we actually saw Sailors in full force this season because they have not really fielded their main team in the interim tournament, the pre-season tournament. What do you make of Sailors' squad and how they performed?
I don't want to be harsh or critical because it's
But
the
you're
very
going to
first
be,
game.
yeah.
No, I'm not. Because it's the very first game. And if you look at the LCS or the Sailors, they came in with lots of players whom I think are going to just, walk all over the other teams in terms of on paper. They've got the pedigree. You talk about the players that come in, Bart, Ramsla, and even Obren Kialish, right?
Yeah.
He was very, very good at left back as well. So, in terms of the players and the makeup of the team, I thought they were would have been better. Really, they would have been better in terms of the intensity, but, they managed the game very well. And in the end, I thought they were very, very comfortable.
I totally agree with Shashi. I think they knew what their strengths were. I think they were focused more about themselves rather than Albrechts. And they wanted to maybe try their game plan and focus on themselves in a way where they want to try something leading up towards the first game of the season. And I think in terms of number of chances that LCS created or even Albrechts created, it's pretty much, I think when we were commentating on the game, it was pretty much just one attempt, 0 shots. Daniel Gomes hit that shot for the first time, and then was nothing much in the second half as well, even though Albrechts came in a little bit better in the second half.
But how has LCS strengthened the squad? Because typically, the last few seasons, we've said that they should be winning the league, minimally challenging, but also ultimately winning the title. How do you think they've actually strengthened the squad to go towards that aim?
I think they've looked to freshen things up, right? We have Ramsala who's come in and he looked quality in that game. He looked a class apart. He was floating around the pitch and looking to get involved a lot. Keeping Lestienne, I thought, was huge for them. They really needed to keep him, and they did. So, it looks like there's some really good encouraging signs. Song Ayong coming back as well gives them a lot of energy. He goes like box to box. I feel like they strengthened very well. They look by far the most outstanding side in terms of league, in terms of transfers, players that have come in terms of overall squad depth. So, we've seen this before from them. And we've gotten very excited about Lion City Sailors and the kind of squads that they've had. The question now is whether they can actually deliver. I mean, going back to Albrechts Negata as well, with the fact that they're now a local club, then things are going more in favor of the Lion City Sailors. You know what I mean? You sort of take away that big challenger to them, the main challenge to them in that sense. But then there's someone else who can potentially come in, can step in.
But Sailors right now, because now we're hearing that Zivkovic is gone. And they have to bring in another foreigner, probably a striker, we're hearing. Do you think that's going to affect them much? Because they're going to have a long season. They're playing a lot of games. Then the SPL, they're going to play in the ASEAN tournament as well as the AFC Champions League.
I think before we speak about Zivkovic, I think we have to give credit to them for bolstering their defense. I think their two centre-backs, Bailey Wright and the hitman, Darkovic. It's important for them to be present, ever present, not just in the SPL, but also all the regional tournaments. And that gives that stability for the forward players to do whatever they want to do, to be creative, to be expensive, and try to score those goals to win those games.
I think your question was how they have strengthened, right? And I think Hide is right, absolutely, because I think he's seen something from last year, and he said this as well, as in he wanted to replace Pedro in a way. Because he was, in a way, a weak link. He was recovering from a long-term injury as well. So he's gotten Datkovic in there together with Bailey Wright. And let's not forget, the other players can play in that position as well. We've got Lionel, we've got Anu, we have Haris who can play in that position. So they've got strength in that position. So you're absolutely right there. And let's not forget, I think you said it before just now, right, that they're going to bring in a striker, a from Germany, I will be here.
That's what we
right?
hear,
So
yeah.
that's going to further strengthen them. So I think they look very solid. And in terms of local players, they only brought in Song, as a local player. Other than that, remained the same. So they're very comfortable. The players that they brought in, they've definitely strengthened them.
Yeah, they can go in and go and look at players and profiles that they want to get. They knew they wanted a left-footed central defender, just to give them balance in terms of their playing out and their style of play and things like that. They went and got Datkovic. They went and got Ramzala, which is incredible, right? Because we were talking about this on commentary as well, about his age profile and the fact that he can still play.
7.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 28, like in
yeah,
June or something like that. But
yeah.
it's to come into the league at this age and be playing in the SPL when he can still contribute, in the Dutch
And
Eredivisie.
he's not coming in from a club, or rather from, like, say, 1 year off of injury or something like that. He's coming in straight from youth,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
And then coming straight to SPL, where competition is so much lower than the Eredivisie. And I don't know, maybe he's thinking of going to somewhere else in Asia after this.
I just wanted to pick up on what Khidhir said earlier as well about the Lion City Sailors, and it's not just the Singapore Premier League. Of course, we're talking about the league on this show, but the continental competitions are going to be important for them. ACL 2, they want to have a look at the draw and see who they can come up against, and they want to push themselves. Shopee Cup is another one that they'll be competing in, and you expect them to get to like the latter stages of that competition as well. So, I mean, really interesting times. I think the pressure for the Sailors is different. You expect them to win things domestically, but also regionally, they need to go and show what they're all about.
I mean, as Luca has said, it's 33% done for the treble locally. Right? So all the things now.
Quadruple, rather, actually, right?
They got four. Locally, so he put 33%. So I think I'm pretty sure they are going to be very competitive in the international competitions also, or the regional competitions.
Let's talk about a team that they beat, Albrecht Negata. Now, we are so used to them dominating the league in the past few seasons. This year, as Roshan mentioned, they've gone to more a local outfit with majority of Singaporean players. Is this Yoshinagas' biggest test as a coach?
It is. I think it's definitely here in Singapore at least, right? But, I thought that their best signing was Yoshinaga himself. I think he knows the culture very well. He knows the local players anyway, their habits and all. And, to bring him in, to be in that position, I think it's very, very important. So now he knows the local players that he's brought in. But it's a big, big task. It's his first time taking like an all local team with the Japanese foreigners. It's going to be tough, and I think quietly he knows that it's not going to be like the past seasons. When I was speaking to him as well, he was confident, but not. We can tell from the body language as well. It's going to be tough, but he's going to have a right go at it because I think the local players are in there for a reason. He's picked them not because just to make up the numbers. And I think he's got some quality local players as well. And the foreigners as well, they must come in to do a job like all the other foreigners.
Do you think they had a good transfer window, though?
I think they could have done better. I think they could have done better with their local signings. I think he's trying to get the younger local players coming in, like Haziq Kamarudin, Daniel Goh, who is in the national squad but not really featuring too much. But at the same time as well, I kind of disagree with what you said, Shashi. I think knowing the players from afar is totally different than when you are coaching
day-to-day, right?
on a day-to-day kind of thing. Their reactions, their mentality. So I think somewhere along the season he will find a difficult position or a difficult place to understand these players and how these local players are going to react to his methods, and he has to change.
I think he knows the players very well because he's taken he's seen in very close view the under-21 from last season with the local players, and he's one coach as an SPL head coach who goes round the scene, and he knows his Albrechts, the under-16s and the under-15. He goes round, so he knows the local players, and he even said that. It was a little bit tough at the beginning, when the players came in and with the trainings and all. So he got to change their mindset, the routine. It's so tough. We all know, and it's going to be
for him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he's learning English. He's speaking in English.
He gave the pre-match.
It was really great, actually, to hear him try and do the interview in English. Salute to him,
insisted. It was on his insistence that he wanted to do that.
Yeah, but what Shashi said about, I think getting the different mindset, experiencing that. I know for a fact that even before they became a local club, they had Singaporean players,
yeah.
and a lot of them would struggle with the intensity and the quality of the training sessions. So it was always a challenge to try and bring that up.
Yeah, exactly.
You used to have players who are coming from a very different development system. In Japan, the quality of play throughout university level, and even you go down to like J3, J4,
It's still
like
level.
a lot. It's higher than what we develop here.
So I think right now he has to manage in a way where he has to bring himself down to bring the players up, rather than stay up there and trying to bring players.
That's a very interesting point, because does he then sort of lower himself, or does he go, no, I'm demanding from you that this is what you deliver? I think that's an interesting, because you guys are coaches. Like, what do you all do in these situations? Do you lower yourselves, or do you go, no, this is where I am, you meet this, or you're gone?
Well, one of his objectives, when I asked him during the pod was, what is your objective? Your objective of doing this in the first place? And one of the reasons, or one of the objectives, is to strengthen the local players so that they have that mindset when they go and play for the national team. Right, so that is one of the objectives for the All Blacks as well. You can't lower yourself. You can't lower your standards anymore. You can't. You have to maintain that, so that then now the local players who come in, they've got to raise their game in terms of everything, on the pitch, off the pitch, and one of the most important aspects is off the pitch, the off the pitch part. And I think he kept on reminding us about that. And
is he still doing the washing of the balls and all that?
I guess so. I'm sure he does that.
I think what's interesting was after the game, you could see how irritated he was with the defeat and how affected he was by the defeat. Because if you're talking about lowering standards, I don't think that he's willing to actually go and do that, where he's gonna, okay, let me lower my standards. He's probably going to tell them, look, these are my standards. You have to meet them. But again, what Roshan mentioned, how do the players react? That's the key, isn't it?
I think his message to the players, to the media, to the public is, I'm going to stay like this. But internally, I'm pretty sure he knows that these players are not the same level as what his previous squads were. So how he tried to balance that is key for him and the players.
So what would be a good season for Albrecht Negata then?
I personally think, looking at the squad that they have, the quality that they have, if it would be good if they can finish number 3, number 4.
I was going to go third as well. I was going to say third looks pretty good for Albrecht, but again, I think publicly what they'll say is we want to challenge for the title. Completely understand that, right? And I feel I don't think Yoshinaga will want to sort of lower himself too much and say, top 3, top 4. And he said we go for the title and see where that takes us.
I totally agree with you guys, because if you look at the squad, it's the same now, or even, I don't know. I think teams like Geylang and Balestier, they are stronger than them. If you look at the local players and the foreigners as well, because now it's flipped around, right, for Albrecht. So I think third, fourth for me.
I know you probably want to move on because we're probably running out of time.
Go on.
But I just want, because we were doing this game and we were talking about the tactical style. Remember at halftime we had this chat about, do you think they're going to be the side that sits back because that's maybe now their strength this season? Second half, they tried to be a little bit more open, but they really lacked that attacking structure. It wasn't linking very well. They lacked creativity in attacking areas. What kind of Albrechts do you all think we're going to see? Do you think we're going to see that kind, like they're able to mix and match? Or
You're right. I think in the first half, I thought they were like a little bit too cagey. And maybe he wanted to just see how it pans out, especially playing against Lion City Sailors, the strongest side in the league. So let's relax a little bit. And then in the second half, when they pushed on a little bit, okay, maybe just a little bit of a difference, but of course they were susceptible to the attacks behind or over the top. But again, let's not be too overcritical, because it's only the first game. It's 32 games?
No, I mean, we're not criticizing. It's still very early. Just wondering what we expect to see.
I think they will only get better. Let's put it that way. They will only get better. And let's not forget, they are not going to face Lion City Sailors every single week. Because that's the standards, right? So if they are going out every single game against the other teams, and no disrespect to the other teams, I think they can come up with results there.
Well, let's move on, as Roshan.
I was laughing because they got Tampines next, right? I think the first game of the league.
So let's move on and talk about. We're talking about a preview of the season, and one of it, the big part, is obviously incoming signings. Which teams do you think were really good in this transfer market? Because we had a very long pre-season.
You go ahead.
I personally think Geylang did a fantastic job in terms of revamping their squad, kicking off players that is pretty much dead weight in the team last season, a lot of injuries. Like who? I think they know themselves who they are. Right? They managed to to bring in Doi. Right, that's a
was a
fantastic,
massive
massive
signing.
signing.
Yeah.
Vincent Bezecourt is back. That's also something that they've done pretty good job in re-signing him. They've gotten
Taniguchi?
Taniguchi,
yeah.
and they've gotten Iqbal back. So basically, they're up top. They're pretty heavy. Like, they couldn't really score goals last season, and this season,
After Zuzul,
Yes,
yeah, they were
was the
struggling.
last so-called striker.
this year they've been fantastic, and they've gotten a Japanese centre back. I can't remember his name. Keto.
Oh, Haria.
So
Yes.
I was in Selangor, and they had a friendly game against their Selangor under 23 team. They look pretty balanced everywhere. Of course, I still think that their goalkeeping department is still quite a weak point.
I feel like that's a Singapore
for
thing, right? Like, in general, we talk about
But
goalkeeping,
in terms of all the outfield players, they have balance. They have a lot of formations that they can play. They can play a 4-3-3, they can play a 3-5-2, and this is key for the season as well because it's a long season.
So this is the one thing that I think we spoke about last season as well with Noor Ali and Geylang. They've never had depth, and this is probably the best team. Noor Ali's been there for what, 9 years now. This might
20,
so this is probably his best squad that he's had at his disposal, because going by what we've seen last season, where he couldn't really rotate players, he couldn't change players. But now, as you mentioned, he can play different formations. There are different players who can play in different positions. Shashi, do you think they had the best transfer window as well? Because the other teams did pretty well as well.
Yeah, one of the best. You know, I think I've got to agree. And Haria, we all know him from last year. He's just class, right? Like together with Kawachi. But one is Geylang. I think the other one is Balestier. I think we got to talk about Balestier as well. I think they've gotten some good players, but I'm still not
concerned about them defensively.
Yes,
though,
still,
because
still.
they haven't
Yeah,
seemed like they've
yes.
signed anyone.
Because
like
up top they are like very good. You know, going forwards, they've got some good players in there. But at the back, I suspect, speaking to Peter De Roo, I suspect they're going to go with a three at the back, a three central defenders with wing backs. You know, that's how I think that he's going to try to cover the defensive problems at the back. So they are very strong, or not very strong. They pack the numbers in the middle and then, you know, then shift across. So tactically, that's what he's trying to do. But I don't know. I just feel that there's continuity in the Tampines side. We haven't spoken about Tampines, BG Tampines, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
BG Tampines.
BG
I think they are one of the teams over the past couple of seasons. They don't change much, and the players know exactly how they play and all. Kunori is there.
That's the thing about transfer windows. We talk about who's had the best transfer window, but sometimes keeping your players together is the best transfer strategy because you know what you're getting.
Kunori is in there. He is just class. I've always been critical of Tampines when it comes to the defensive midfield area because they've got Nakamura, they've got Shah, Shahiran, all the ball-playing players. They don't have that defensive mid. They've gotten in Jared from Young Lions, whom I'm sorry, I don't think he's the best defensive midfielders around. He tends to, dive into tackles, and so I think that's their main problem. But yeah, these three teams I think probably have, and I mean Sailors, of course, right? I mean, you talk about.
It's almost like we don't have to talk about Sailors because in terms of transfers, they'll just do.
And we don't know exactly about DPMM as well. Maybe.
I think DPMM has brought in, I think the technical stuff is different. The way they're playing this season is different. Last season they had a lot of old players, right? All the veterans, right? I think this season they have gotten younger players in. And from what I saw in Selangor, they are playing a much different way. Their foreigners are good as well. They are still lacking in one foreign striker who came in, I think, a few days after the last match in Selangor. That should be interesting. And I still don't. I think DPMM shouldn't be a team that we can just forget about them like last season. I think they are coming back strong.
Playing in the Arsenal
at home as well, and that can be quite a trip. I played there. I don't know if you guys have coached there. I don't know. Have you all coached there? You coached there? I played there. It was with Home United. This was a long time ago now, right? 2012, 1989. I was 4 years old in 1989. Not that old. I might look it, but yeah. So 2012, we went there and we were leading 2-0 at halftime. I'm not sure if we had our strongest side available. But we were leading 2-0 at halftime, and instead of sort of just going, okay, guys, we're leading 2-0, great job, blah, 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 Lee Lim Sing says, okay, guys, if you win this match, $1,000 bonus for everyone. And then everybody is just like, we ended up losing 3-2. Not to say that it's his fault, but everybody's saying like, oh, wow, $1,000, wow, bonus, 1,000 guys, come on, 1,000. It's like, your focus shifts. I think you focus on, you try and like just focus, be professional about the game, and focus on seeing out the game. Whereas then now everybody's like, if we see this one out, suddenly there's like $1,000 extra in our pocket. I I felt like that was a bit of the wrong approach. But going back to the point I was making about Hasanah Bolkiah,
Always blame the
always
coach.
you guys are the ones responsible for everything, right? Poor results, you need to get sacked. But Singapore not really, doesn't really work that way. So anyway, once second half there was a big roar, they scored the first goal and you feel the crowd like on top of you because they get pretty decent crowds.
So
over
when you
there.
played, they had a crowd.
Yeah, I don't know about now.
When I played in 2019, there was zero.
Yeah, I
or
don't know
maybe
about now.
10.
Yeah.
10 fans.
It's still a big stadium, though. It is an intimidating stadium.
But it's nice, I think, for local players to go there and have that sort of away day, a proper away day. I mean, we here at Singapore is small, it's no secret, right? You take a bus journey, and maybe the longest one is from Jurong to Tampines. But it's good. But what you said about DPMM, whether they're a different team this year, is going to be fascinating to see because we don't really know when they show up and what they're going to do. Because I was looking at some of their players, like Gaba, the Brazilian.
Physical. They're still going to be physical, right? But they are more solid. I think in terms of tactically, they are set up a different way. They have a lot of speed at the sides. Hakim Yazid is still around,
Yes,
and that's the guy.
I don't think it's always been easy playing against them anyway, right? Whether they've got an old team or they're there and thereabouts. It's very difficult to beat them. They run the 90 minutes or so, whatever it is, right? But they are not one of those teams that's going to fold, lose 8-0 or things like that.
That's quite funny about that as well is because I grew up watching the Malaysia Cup, right? And we used to see Brunei always got hammered, 7-8-0, and then as a young player, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to be in the league. Okay, surely we can't lose to them. But then you realize it's very different because these are actually still international level players who are playing. They represent Brunei on international level, so they'll be physical, they'll still be tough, and like you said, they got some pace in there with Oliveira. Don't know too much. Julio Cruz is perhaps the one that coming from having played in Mexican second division with Oaxaca and scoring some goals there. But aside from that, it's going to be an interesting journey.
One team I want to talk about, Hougang.
I think they're silently.
Yeah, they've been very under the radar. Yeah,
I mean, it's still going to be a Marco Karayevic
Do they have
team.
enough defensively, Hougang?
They have Anders. They have
Marco brought back
Ensa Brucevic.
Brucevic. You know what you're going to get with him.
And they have a 1.92 striker.
Go up.
They have a 1.92 striker, powerful as well. Who else do we have? Nazrul Nazari is still there. I mean, the core players that I think Marco wants is still there. Just that, I think different playing style.
The only problem may be the foreigners are new, as in except for Ensa, right?
Yokoyama? As well,
Yokoyama. They've got Yokoyama, But the rest of the strikers, those you want them to hit the ground running to score goals because they struggled last year.
Especially the initial part of the
Yes.
Ferreira when Ferreira was.
Oh, wow. What a player.
So I think in the beginning, right, they lost a lot of players, and then people start commenting that who are they signing, Hougang. But I think Marco has done well in terms of trying to get those players back, and I think it's, like I said, like we all say, right, it's going to be a long season. Hougang will not hit the top 3. I feel.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair shot.
Marco is Marco. I think Marco can make the players believe they are like the number 1 player in the country.
So
it's
Oh yes,
Balestier Premier League, he was my coach for a bit. Yeah, Karen.
I mean, so I think he is getting the players according to his style now. I think he's going to be efficient, same way as how Balestier has been under him. He has a 1.92 striker. He's going to make use of that power, that speed, that pace, and get some goals with their set pieces. So it's a vintage Marco team. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like that. Yeah.
Well, talking about Marco and coaching, we want to get a coaching perspective as well because like we mentioned before, so long preseason, coaches have had time to actually go and look for players that they've wanted. From a coach's perspective, what goes through your head when you want to sign a player? What's the process, especially in Singapore and the SPL?
I go first. Well, firstly, you got to assess your team first, what you have, right? From the previous season, and look at stats and what have you in terms of where your weaknesses are, where you've been conceding goals and whatever. And then you start thinking about who you want to drop, and then to release from the squad and what have you. And then, look towards players who can then now come in and fit those roles. You got local players, obviously, you got to look around, and then the foreigners come in. So that's the main, general view of how things go. And just going back to your pre-season, right? Actually, if you really look at it, going from the coach's perspective, the pre-season shouldn't be too long anyway. It's not a 5-month pre-season, right? So the coaches work backwards from where your first game is going to be, and then you work backwards, more or less 8 weeks, 9 weeks max. You don't go further than that, right? So obviously here, after the change was made, we start in May. So from Jan to May, it's 5 months. So it's kind of a long season. So what usually coaches would do is prepare them from, you work backwards from 8 weeks from then on, right? So from Jan to whatever, Feb or March, you do your maintenance training, So that's what you do, and then you hit your real preseason. So that's how usually you work things out. That's why if you look at the Sailors team that played in the the interim preseason, fair play to them, because they really need to work out their periodization. That's what it's called anyway, right? So that's why they did what they did. So fair play to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, all the processes have been spoke about by Shashi. I think one of the main criteria in a local side is basically to fit everything within the budget of the club. I think, and once you have that, you can choose exactly to what you want. Yeah. With the process of the long preseason, right? There are many ways of like Gavin does it. Gavin, in between those months, he gives a long break in between. Like maybe he trains for 3 weeks, he gives a 1 week break. Train for another 3 weeks, he gives another 1 week break. So I think this is key to keep the freshness to start the season and then prepare for a 1.5 year season ahead. So that's going to be interesting as well. It's because it's never been done before in Singapore football.
It's very interesting, right? Yeah. You talk about these breaks in between, and some coaches do give that during the season, in season, pre-season, after season, or whatever it may be, right? Even during the season, sometimes coaches say, okay, just why not just give them 2 weeks break? So there's nothing in a manual that states that, okay, you can't give them a break during a season, right? So it's up to the coaches. That's where the relationship comes in with the players. You got to know your players very well. Sometimes after a big game and you win a game, you're supposed to come in for a recovery session the next day, right? The cool and hot. And you say, just give them
tomorrow off.
Yeah, just give them a break.
Players love hearing that after a big result.
You're right. Coming from a player's perspective, right? Oh, this is great, man. And then you take 2 days off. It's wonderful. And then you come back happy. So coaches.
But there is something, okay,
which is not the norm.
I mean, we are technical people, right? I mean, we understand like sometimes players just need that off or a long break, like 1 week break. But that's where I think the coaches have to convince the management as well, because management sees it in a different way. They say like, why are you not training like sailors?
But do you have to convince the management?
Some they do, like some do.
Why keep the jobs?
Yeah, I believe that.
In this part of the world, I'm not talking about even in Singapore. I'm talking about in this part of the world.
Because they will say we are paying the players. Why are you giving them a holiday? Why are you giving them a break?
But the managers or the team coaches, the head coach, I decide on the team. You are paying me as well. So if things don't work out, then the coaches have got to come in and think like that. If results don't go my way, I go.
Hey, I thought you said always don't blame the coaches, or don't blame the coaches, okay.
Yeah, but coaches have got to have that mindset, and you should know. Your results don't come your way, you're gone anyway. Right? That works everywhere.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the teams. Touch on the teams that we've not touched on, and we suspect that might struggle. One team who struggled in the past few seasons, Young Lions. I'll tell you, they've actually strengthened quite impressively in these last few months. Do you think that they can go on and grow from this?
Yes, I will set a target for the Young Lions, very modest target. They won 1 game. They won 1 game last season, right? So my target for them is to win at least 5 games. I think they can.
That's not a bad target, actually.
Yeah?
Out of 32.
Out of 32. At least, let's
compare it from last season, right?
They won 1 last season. They won 1 last season, and they had like a terrible record. So say for them, we start with 5 and then we see how it goes, right?
But with the squad they have, with the players they've brought in a few foreigner players as well. Yeah. How do you think they're going to fare?
For sure, I don't think they're going to finish last. I think Tanjung Pagar is in a position where it's scary as well, looking at their squad. How are they going to last the season? How are they going to play with quality and compete? But I think for Young Lions, they look pretty good in the preseason tournaments. Good results, pretty decent performances. But then again, there's going to be a lot of changes within the team.
Because the nature of the club.
So if you go by what they have now, it looks good, but you won't know what's going to happen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But the thing that I like about what they did was they strengthened the foreign signings. They actually have a finisher now, or a player who can finish off chances, which is an issue. When you looked at them last season, for example, there were certain games where they actually played really well.
Yeah.
I thought they created chances, they put teams under pressure, but they couldn't put those opportunities away, right? And then that's how it works in football. You don't take your chances when you're on top, the other side comes back into it. Now I feel they've got someone in there, Inomoto, who could potentially be killing games off. When you kill games off, you start to win matches, pick up points. He's been impressive.
Yeah.
Ogawa has come in central midfield, like can play maybe even in those wider roles for them. So he's full of energy, he's full of work rate, and that helps also Jun and Kan Kobayashi because they were looking really frustrated last season. I don't think they were playing at their best as well because it's difficult for them, right?
It's a good thought from you in terms of this Kan and June, right? Because I think Nazri was saying this as well. During the pod, he was saying
You could see in the matches.
Yeah, they were just because when you play and you start losing games and they were frustrated and then their form dipped and then everything goes haywire, right?
I think the expectations on them as well last season. Like the moment they came in and they were expecting these two players to just bring the level of the team up, which definitely you can't be done.
But let's talk about that impact of having these kind of foreign players around younger players, because Young Lions, predominantly young squad. What kind of impact do these foreign players have on these players?
I think it's very important not only for the young lions. Sorry,
For all the foreigners are young as well, right?
Foreigners are young. You're right. Yeah.
But I guess the professionalism level is
different. The professionalism, like you said, is different. But for every club, not only in the Young Lions, right? The foreigners has got to be a role model. As simple as that, right? So they got to look up to them. But Nazri was very relaxed.
It's very different demeanor now.
Yeah, and Farhan Zulkifli, I think he spoke very well as well. He was good. He was confident.
Do you sense a sense of optimism in the squad?
Yes, definitely. I think, and he said it, right? He was
Farhan said it.
Yeah, Farhan said it, right? He said we're going to see a new Young Lions, a different side from last season. So listen, kudos to him, and it's good positivity, right? You don't want to just go out there and say we're going to lose every game again. And so they're fighting hard, they're training hard. So like you said, right, 5 wins. Let's go for
start with 5. Of course, of course, we'd love to see them, win a few more because essentially a lot of these players are supposed to be some of the best in the country, right? The local players, the best young talents, and obviously you want to, for the good of Singapore football, want to see them do well as well. Start with 5, and then we see what happens.
Well, now we're talking about expectations. Let's move on to predictions as we wrap up this episode. Top 3, guys. At the end of May, which when the season concludes, who will finish top 3 in the SPL?
I think for me, in terms of squad depth, quality, LCS has to be champions. I think there's no way that other teams can take that title away from them. It's theirs to lose. I think it's still theirs to lose. Second team, Tampines Rovers coming, hopefully a close second. Right. Third, this is difficult. I would hope that it will be Albrechts or Balestier or even Geylang. I can't really say anything.
You have to choose one, though.
They put you on the spot there.
I'm going to go for Albrechts.
Okay, so we have Sailors, Tampines, and then Albrechts, a shuffle from last season. Shashi?
I say Sailors, just purely based on quality and strength in depth. I go for BG as well, BG Tampines. I think they'll finish.
I forgot the BG.
I think they'll finish second also because of the continuity in the squad and the team. They know what's happening. And third, I will go for Geylang. I'll just put my neck out and say Geylang because of the quality in the the close season window.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with either of these two guys. I mean, someone brave out there takes a brave person to say LCS are not favourites to go and win it. I think they're going to finish first, especially with Albrechts where they are now. BG Tampines Rovers second. I think they are fantastic to watch. I would love to see them really push Lion City Sailors and be that next challenger. Maybe they can even finish first because they don't necessarily have the distractions of some of the other tournaments, right? They might be playing Continental, maybe. But yeah, I think they're there, and it would be great to see a title challenge between those two. Obviously, the more teams in the title challenge, the better. But yeah, Lion City Sailors 1, BG Tampines Rovers 2. Third spot is the tough one, and I was sort of thinking about Geylang or Albrechts in this situation. I think I'll go with Geylang as well because of the work that they've done. Bezeko coming back, he's fit. He brings so much. He's a workhorse, but he's incredibly talented as well. A lot of technical quality. They got Taniguchi, he's a goal-scoring midfielder. They got a finisher, Doi, right, is there. So I think Geylang, if they can keep players on the pitch and not suspended, and not have injury issues, then
Uzaifa as well makes a difference.
Uzaifa coming back in central midfield. I think Sakuma is still in the squad.
Yes.
Sakuma is still in the squad. Haria in the back line. Shaki Hamza is another one. Yeah. So Geylang definitely have the squad to do it. Whether they can keep players fit, keep 11 on the field, not have players suspended, not have players injured, then I think they can go for top 3. I think should be good for them. So yeah, I'll go with that as well.
Well, we'll be keeping track of that and we'll find out who's right at the end of the season. But we thank them for joining us on this first episode of SPL Table Talks. Don't forget, you can catch all SPL action live on our YouTube page. We'll see you again next time.